Hey, beauty. I'm so excited to bring you the very first episode in a brand new Messy Magic interview series I've created called Exploring the Feminine Economy. It's all about a new way of doing business that honors the body, celebrates the soft alongside the strong, and prioritizes the wellness of all. In this first episode, I'm interviewing my mentor, Jenna, founder of the School of Embodied Arts, where I earned my coaching certification. This beautiful conversation explores what a feminine economy can look like, how feminine values that bring your body alive can spill over into your business, the difference between extractive capitalism and the principles of a feminine economy, and oh my gosh, so much more. I'm so excited to unleash this series. She's been brewing for over a year, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds. I hope you love it. And before we both forget, if you want to make sure you don't miss the upcoming episodes, take a few seconds now to hit subscribe in your podcast player to make sure you receive all the updates I've got planned. Oh, and enjoy my new intro. The nature sounds in the background are from Yagle country, where I live and work, and a place that's really special to me. Enjoy! Hi, beauty. Welcome and thank you for joining me for a new episode of the Messy Magic podcast. Here we discuss what it means to find the magic within the inevitable mess of life. We all have our unique stories, and in this podcast, we celebrate it all because this is the human experience. I'm your host, Nadee Guy, certified feminine embodiment coach, lover of Mother Nature, and seeker of the magic woven through all of life. Welcome to a space to be your true, messy, beautiful self. Dedicate your next breath to you. And then let's sink in. Hi, Jenna. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to be on the Humble Little Messy Magic podcast.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Today's conversation is really designed to be an organic one, just an exploration. The theme of this series is exploring the feminine economy. And, when I was thinking about this first round of this theme, because I think I'm going to do more. Like it's just such a broad, deep topic that I am so interested to explore. And I really want to explore it through the lens of different women, different people, different bodies in business, and how we can bring feminine principles to business. And when I was thinking about who I wanted to talk to, of course, you were, towards the top of my list, if not the very top of my list, because really you were my first introduction to the idea of a feminine economy through my study with the school, the School of Embodied Arts, and my feminine embodiment coaching certification, which I am eternally grateful for. It changed my life. But not only the training and the career options, I suppose, that have emerged as a result of that training, but also just a different way of looking at the world and looking at business and the economy and how we work together. And so as we begin this episode, I guess for anyone who might not be familiar with you and your incredible body of work, if you could give us a little introduction and maybe just, I know it's a very kind of broad question, but when you hear the term feminine economy, what what does that mean to you?
Mm. So thrilled to be here with you talking about this. So, my body of work, I'm a feminine embodiment coach myself, and I work with my private clients, tend to be more entrepreneurs and business women in the creative space. But in 2018, I also established the School of Embodied Arts. We had the great privilege of collaborating with you in that school, and we support and train women in the modality of feminine embodiment coaching. So, for the last decade and more, I've really been devoted to the personal practices of embodiment. So, like inhabiting your body with greater sensitivity and supporting practitioners who want to bring that depth of feeling and devotion to the feminine in the way that they create transformation for their clients. I did not always, I didn't necessarily choose this career path. In a lot of ways, it chose me because many moons ago, I used to be a clinical hospital pharmacist and just was really like going through the motions of what you do in a typical life. Like, get the degree, get the job, get the house, get the promotion. And it's like, and then what? What's the meaning? And my body was showing me this does not have enough meaning and richness and ravishment through a lot of symptoms. So my body of work is around embodiment, devotion to the feminine, and that has very much infiltrated then how I have run my business for the past decade plus. So, as somebody who's really devoted to the feminine and to the principles of flow, of embracing cyclic living, of really not being willing to extract for the purposes of just hyper production because I want to feel good and feel alive and feel pleasure in my body. To me, this is the feminine. So then running a business in in the typical economy, the economy that we most of us know, which is an economy of extractive capitalism, I was really faced with how do I bring these principles that have brought me back to life and that is so potent for me on a personal level? How do these principles spill over into the way that I run my business? And so when I think about a feminine economy, it's in some ways an evolved version of extractive capitalism that we have at the moment. So for a lot of people, the current model of capitalism is all about continuous growth, which is a malignant type of growth. It's all about extraction. It's all about, um, you know, inequitable power dynamics, taking cheap labor from here so that somebody over there can profit. And none of this puts people first, it puts profit first. And so for me, when I think about a feminine economy and I think about the principles of the feminine, it's about putting people and the environment over profit so that we can take care of the resources, both the earth's resources, but also our body as a resource, not to just keep extracting it to the point of like becoming these dry, exhausted, burnt out individuals, which is what so many people report in business, but instead to think about how we might be able to do our ways of working differently. And for me personally, I'm also a mother to two young children. I only work part-time in my business. And the reason I do this work is not because I want to make a ton of money, though that is a happy side effect. And I don't think there's a bad thing about making a ton of money. I'm here because I want to be well. I want to deliver value to the world. And so the way that I run my business needs to reflect those values.
Mm. I love that. And I love like receiving all of that in my body feels good. Like I notice what happens in my like my shoulders kind of melt and I feel like this exhale as you talk about feeling in business and doing business in a way that honors humans and the earth. And it's not just about making profit above all else. Um, and so for um, for this series, I really want to get curious about like what that looks like for you on a day-to-day basis. Like how do you bring these concepts and practices into your business, because I feel like, you know, it is easy to dream about a different way or to feel about a different way of doing things. But we also live in a world that requires us to make money to pay the bills, run usually on a clock of some kind, work with other people, work within structures that we can't necessarily control. So, what are the practical things
Mm.
that you do in your day to day?
Such a great question. And for me, this is an ongoing process. I'm don't have it perfect, and a lot of it happens through trial and error. But I feel like for most of us, we're living inside a system of extractive capitalism. And it lives not only in the systems around us, but also inside our bodies. So for me, a lot of the work starts with first just noticing what doesn't feel good. Because if my body is giving me a signal, this is not feeling good. This is not the way that I want to feel. Then that to me is something I can get really curious about. What else could be possible? Is this really necessary? So I was recently recording some videos and I really needed to get through a lot of content. I had a really ambitious goal. And at the same time, I would notice throughout the day of doing these recordings, there was a point where my body was just done. It was just done. So I had to listen to my body and take a break, go read my latest trashy fiction novel or have a walk out in nature. And then when I came back to do my recording, the number of mistakes and the number of errors that I was making that were going to require a lot of editing and take a lot more time significantly reduced. So I became a lot more productive as a result of prioritizing feeling well and resourced in my body. So that's one of the ways that it shows up, just with a curiosity about what am I feeling? What's happening inside of me? Where's my energy at? Where's my hunger at? Where's my level of hydration and concentration at? How connected am I feeling to what we're doing here? And I think that's a level of body sensitivity that's come as a result of all of my devotional practices to embodiment. Because I know many moons ago when I used to be a clinical hospital pharmacist, like I would avoid going to the toilet and doing a pee because it was just inconvenient. It's like I had a lot of things that I need to do. I just need to get through them. And so I suppressed a lot of the cues and signals and exhaustions and cyclic information that my body was giving to me because it was inconvenient. And now I don't view it as inconvenient. I view it with a lot more curiosity, and it increases my productivity because the things that I do are then more meaningful, more potent, more effective. I've brought the right, quote unquote, right energy to my doing. So that's one example. Another example for I sat down with a kind of coach slash mentor at the start of the year to think about where do I want to get to in business? What are the goals here? And the ambitious part of me was like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How big could this get? How great could it be? And I sat with that really ambitious part of myself, which I so love and I am in adoration of. And then I sat back and I checked in with my capacity. So my youngest is right now 16 months old. And I thought, Jenna, is this really who you want to be this year? Yes, there's the possibility to do it all. Yes, that feels exciting, and some dimension of you is really excited by that. But what's that going to require of you? And so I bring this example because to me, this speaks about looking not on like celebrating ambition. I think ambition is great, but also considering, well, what is your realistic capacity? Because a lot of women identifying people in business often have significant childcare, family care, domestic labor roles, or maybe even jobs on the side, other careers, other responsibilities. And we are not like the traditional quote unquote CEOs who have some little wife at home taking care of the children. And not to belittle that role, it's a really important role, but often we're wearing so many hats. And so we can have this really like this ambition part of us, I think, is really valid, while at the same time really checking in with what's your capacity. is that realistic? And I find a lot of friction between those two kind of roles or sides of me because I am very ambitious, but I have a very limited capacity at this phase of my life. And for me personally, zooming back and remembering that I'm going to be doing this when I'm 50, when I'm 60, I might be creating and doing this, passion-based work well into my future. I've still got decades in the game here, can release some of that internalized pressure that capitalism really tells us, like, you need to have it done yesterday, or you're going to miss the market, or you're not going to be taken seriously, or whatever the narrative that we may have internalized. So it's a second example. And I've got one final one that comes to mind in terms of how it weaves into my business. So I've been in business for many years and have the privilege and the joy of having a team that I work with. Some of our team are employees, some contractors. And we're really mindful that everybody is paid a really fair and equitable wage, independent of where they're located in the world. So for me, a feminine economy reflects that everyone deserves a fair living wage. And just because somebody might be located, for example, in the global south, doesn't mean that we should take advantage of that economic disparity for me to make more profit so I can underpay somebody based on the location in the world that they're in. And that wasn't, like, full transparency, that was not how I started my business. I had a VA based in the Philippines who I paid peanuts really early on because I was not aware that, like, oh, there's a power and an inequality difference here. But as I began to do more learning, knew better and did better, that's now one of the really core principles, that we just make sure everyone's being paid fairly, irrespective of where they're based in the world. There's so much more I could say on this, but there's three diverse examples that have come to mind just this week around how that comes into the business.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. And you're talking about how you run your business, but also how you are in your business, like how you honor your body. It's like this is what the business does and how we operate under feminine values, but also this is how I operate in the business. And I love that, honoring every level. And I think also I really appreciate your transparency around the fact that it's an evolving thing because there really is no blueprint, like, especially, operating in the world that we're in with these principles, and these principles might be ancient and we might be kind of remembering things that we've forgotten along the way, but we are also existing in the modern world. So, um, I think that's a really a kind of it's a nice acknowledgement to say yes, we have these ideals and we can always get better.
Mm.
Because I think, especially when we care, we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do better, like immediately. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and one thing I've learned from you in different scenarios during the time I've known you is you do have high ideals, but you also are realistic. And you will say, you know, you might want to come out the gate and be earning really big money in your coaching career, but maybe that's not what's going to happen in your particular, talking about me, your particular journey. Some people might, and some people might not. It's like you don't make promises that um are unrealistic. You've always been really realistic, which I think is beautiful.
And from a marketing perspective, I think that you don't always get further. In theory, you wouldn't always get further ahead by just really telling the truth. In marketing sense, if we're in a role of selling or marketing something to the world, it can seem like I have to have all the promises and have it all sorted out. But people can detect what's sincere. And people, I feel like in this time and age, we're just constantly being marketed to, we're constantly being sold something. So if you're actually just, if there is a level of sincerity and really centering your values in everything you do, and everything that you put out into the world, that goodwill will circle back to you. And I feel like that's a principle of the feminine economy as well. We're all figuring this out together, and I don't have all the answers. But if I'm guided by my values and I'm guided by just what is true and sincere, acknowledging that multiple realities exist. For some people with a certain capacity, you know, you could do this. For other people with a different capacity, it's not going to look the same way because all our bodies are so unique and all of our circumstances are so different. All of our privileges are so different. And I think a feminine economy acknowledges and celebrates that it is not a one size fits all approach, because particularly as women, we are wearing so many hats and often giving so much invisible domestic, reproductive, and emotional labor in our lives that it's it's like a choose your own adventure in terms of what the path might look like.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that idea of collaboration and kind of honoring where you're at is such a big thing I've noticed as well. Like since I've kind of become more aware of these principles, I've like noticed communities that I'm in where the vibe is collaboration, people genuinely caring about each other and, buying from each other to support each other's work and offering support in ways that just feels really genuine. It's not like I'm not just here to make a profit. I'm here because I care and I care about my work and I want my work to get into the world as well and help people, but also I'm here to support you. Um, and that feels really feminine to me as well. Um,
Certainly. The principle of collaboration over competition, I think, is one that's really central to a feminine approach to living, but also to feminine economics in a traditional. I remember when I first said to my mother, bless her, love her, when I first said to her, I'm going to teach people to do this method of coaching. I've been asked to teach my peers and some colleagues and some clients. They've asked me to teach them how I coach. My mother said to me, but Jenna, if you teach them, then won't you not have enough clients? And from a lens of competition, that would make sense. If I teach others to coach like me, then, maybe my clients won't come to me. Maybe they'll be better suited to go to someone else. But from a collaboration point of view, I trust that there's a flavor for everyone. There is enough bounty. And honestly, like looking at how much the world needs embodiment, I feel like there's no shortage of clients. So I was deeply unconcerned from the lens, it like had not occurred to me from a lens of competition that this might create lack for me in some way. Because from a more collaborative lens, which you're pointing out, which I think is, if we think about the feminine as being more communal, as being more cyclic, as being more grounded and rooted, collaboration is the way that everyone gets what they need. And there
mm,
is more than enough. There is always more than enough.
mm. I always love that metaphor or the saying that the rising tide lifts all boats. Always come back to that. Just feels so true to me. When I rise, you rise, and the same happens with everybody else. A brief interruption here to share something else with you that I'm really excited about. What if the key to being more magnetic is not creating more or being more, but leaning into what makes you feel really good? I've been playing with this question and mindfully infusing my business with pleasure and beauty, and it's had such a profound impact on, well, everything. And I wanted to create something that invited other women to do the same. So I created a free 5-day pleasure infusion for the woman who's open to asking the question, what might be possible if I focused less on doing all the things and more on dropping into ease, fun, and play? It's 5 daily emails with a small but potent exercise to invite you into more pleasure in your business. You can sign up for free at nadigai.co/pleasureinfusion, and you can check the link in the show notes. I wanted to just pause for a moment, or go back to something you were saying about marketing, because that that really strikes a chord with me, because I come from a marketing background, and when I first came out as a certified coach, my plan was to go down the coaching path, become a coach. This is my future. Marketing is kind of in my past, and my consulting and that kind of work was in my past. And that was my intention. And then as I began exploring it, it occurred to me that it didn't have to be this separation between the two, that there is this beautiful, fertile ground in between where I can take what I've learned through feminine embodiment training and coaching, and what I continue to learn, and what I've also learned in the past, and like kind of meld them together and bring something to the world that feels different. Um, and that was really exciting. It was scary and exciting at the same time, because it felt like when I started talking about it, it just felt like no one's going to get this. Like, what is she talking about? Like, are you a coach, or are you a marketer? Are you an embodiment, or are you helping people sell stuff? Like, where is the intersection? But the more I have played, the more natural it feels to me to bring it all together. And part of my marketing training is in conversion focused copywriting. So it's all about conversions. And when you were talking about, like, I'm not sure which part of what you were talking about struck with me, but it was about um, kind of, I guess, getting the sale, which is really what conversion, well, there are other kinds of conversions, but that's kind of the big one. It's like, how do we make more sales? And that's valid. But also there's a way to do it in a way that's kind of manipulative and all about just getting the sale. And there's a way to do it that honors human nature and empathy and compassion, and still drawing on those principles of conversion focused marketing, but also doing it in a way that feels more feminine to me, and more like honoring of my values, honoring of nature and the world and other people, really. So I think, and that's just one example that is personally my journey. But I think this idea of taking feminine principles and infusing them into kind of where we're at and what we've learned in other areas is such a huge fertile ground for growth.
I would wholeheartedly agree. And it doesn't surprise me because initially, what I've noticed, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of highly ambitious, skilled, smart, multi-modality, or like women who have had a lot of success in their life who are wanting to make a career change and bring more embodiment of feminine skills in. And what I've noticed is that at first there is this desire to really swing from the career they've been in all the way into something else that feels more sustainable, nourishing, desirable. And it's like, I just really need a break from where I've been. But also, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because you've got a really powerful skill set. And when we kind of if we're over on the far left and then we swing to the far right, with time, things tend to settle somewhere in the middle. Because as you're describing, I feel like when we bring any intersecting passions, politics, mastery, and we blend them with the principles of the feminine, the principles of embodiment, we're able to do that work, but from a much deeper, more rooted place. And so I know for myself, particularly in the realm of marketing, I have learned a ton of kind of more conventional marketing strategies and approaches. And it's almost like here in the Netherlands, they have these gardens. They're called downs, and you just go and you can choose the flowers and pick a bouquet that works for you. And to me, that's what you're describing, this ability to like pick the strategies and take the colors and put together a bouquet which you're happy to carry around because you're taking the marketing pieces that ethically work for you and applying them in ways that work for you. And I know for myself as a business owner, marketing is a huge percentage of what I do. It's a huge, like, I love all the embodiment stuff, but I have to spend a lot of time marketing and selling, particularly because we're an online business. So we don't have, foot traffic. There's no one walking past my front door being like, hey, what are they doing there? They look cool. And so it is a big learning curve in terms of how can I do this marketing, which is a very necessary part of running a business, in ways that don't burn me out, that feel sustainable. And I know there's a huge need for the marketing world to evolve in that direction. So go sprinkle your magic liberally everywhere, Nidhi. It's needed.
Thank you. That feels good to me. And I like talking about feeling as well. I think part of the magic of the feminine is this like indescribable resonance, which which I would coming back to the School of Embodied Arts, like my experience of finding the school really came down to the resonance of it because I was looking for a coaching certification that aligned with my values. And I was looking at a few different schools, and I came across the School of Embodied Arts through a referral. But when I was looking at it, it kind of it didn't, I don't know what it was. It wasn't like the words didn't immediately speak to me about what it was delivering because I wasn't looking for embodiment. I wasn't looking for feminine. I was looking for like coaching and structure um and so I went away, and then I don't know, a couple of days later it was still calling in the back of my mind, and I came back to it, and of course then had an enrollment call and signed up like on the spot because it just resonated with me. And I think that's something that we can't always construct because it's part of the magic. But as a within the feminine economy, I think if we can lean into trusting a resonance that if as a business owner, like if you're creating something, making sure that it's infused with the resonance that feels true to you, but also like as a customer, coming at it from that angle as well of like, well, what feels good to me, and sort of trusting that what feels good is worthy of my trust and is worthy as a worthy path forward, because it's not something we really learn to do. It's like to make decisions based on how we feel.
Absolutely. And you've just summed up embodiment like in a nutshell. I feel like as it relates to marketing and selling, resonance is a huge piece of it, but it's a very intangible, invisible component, which relegates it to the realm of the feminine as that which we can't really prove. It's not overt, it's not direct, it's more kind of misty and hard to put your finger on. And yet, that's no different to something like pain or love. You can't see those things, you can't point to them, but they're very real experiences that all of us take seriously. And this concept of resonance, this sense of alignment, the feeling of that you're describing around a curiosity and a calling, to me, that's always a sign that even if my head feels unsure, if part of me feels a little bit terrified of like, what's this unknown? I don't know what this is about. I trust that that curiosity is calling me into something that, like something that's good and true. And that has been a big part of how I've navigated a huge component of my journey as a business, like in running my business. And I think it is a very feminized way to both run a business and to market because it's about inviting feelings and curiosity into the decision-making equation as a very valid way of knowing, because it is. Our wider culture may not, it's reflected in our language. How often are you asked, Dee, what do you think about that? As opposed to, what do you feel about that? So I'm a big advocate for bringing feeling into everything, shockingly.
Mm-hmm.
And it has served me so well. Yeah, it has served
Mm-hmm.
me so well and been a really important, valid, and reliable tool for me to make decisions, all kinds of decisions. I'm trying to decide right now if I should holiday here or holiday there during the European summer. And I've got this feeling that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm like, well, that's how I feel. That's the truth of what I feel. So that's what we're going to do. And my husband's trying to argue with me. He's like, but logically, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, but this is what feels right. So that's what I'm going to go with.
I love that. Oh man, if we could all do that more. I think the beauty of it too is like the more you trust it and the more you follow what you feel, it's like this reinforcing loop because you trust it and then you do it and then it works out well. So then you trust the next thing and or the next like feeling that you have. Because yeah, I'm forever grateful that I trusted my instinct that I should enroll in the School of Embodied Arts and that has like it's just this spiral, this beautiful spiral that continues. So I think it's
Brene,
something we can all
yeah.
practice.
Brene Brown speaks about trust as if you've got a pot, and every little decision that you make, you are putting just like 1 cent or $1 into that pot, just making all these really small deposits. So while I'm talking about, being guided by a feeling in deciding my holiday, that's a relatively low risks decision, but it's still putting $1 in the pot and building up the number of deposits that I have until eventually there's a lot of cash in that pot, which means there's a lot of trust in that way of making decisions. And so I think it naturally has to start small with like, how do I want to feel today? And let me prioritize that feeling. Let me follow that curiosity in a low stakes way. And as we build these deposits of trust in small, low stakes situations, we then have this foundation of trust. We have these deposits in the bank. That means we can take bigger risks and make bigger investments and know it's going to work out. So that's where I feel like following, uh, it's not a mantra that I live by, but it's a common thing that I say. I'm like, follow that feeling like your life depends on it, because it does, particularly if it's a low stakes situation and you can gather some data, put some deposits in the trust bank, and ultimately, that's going to really serve you well when it's a big decision. Like, should I stay in this relationship or leave that job or move this country or make this wild choice? You're going to want to have deposits in the bank of trust around following that feeling before you do something that's a higher stake situation.
Mhm. I love that. And that's a very practical example as well, which is, what I want to make this series about too is like giving people ideas of things that they can do in their everyday to to walk out the feminine economy. And I think making decisions based on feelings sounds like a pretty good place to be.
And the trouble with that is it can make things a little bit more messy. Yeah. But the reality is that life is messy. I think for many of us, we have been socialized with this very linear path for how life should go, particularly for women. Do this, then that, then you get here, then you get there. And it's like this very standard set of milestones that we're meant to navigate life according to. And if we don't necessarily subscribe to like that's success, then we have to decide, well, what is success for you? And to me, success is, of course, I want to be safe. I want to have enough, that I am safe and well in the world, because we do need money to be safe and well in this world. That's the way that extractive capitalism, our safety is linked to money. Like, we cannot deny that. So I want to have enough to be safe and well. But more than that, I want to also feel the way that I want to feel. I want to feel well, easeful, creative, and have enough time to read my smutty fantasy fiction. And if I can do that, like, that's success for me, whether I reach the standard milestones or not. And I think that's a decision that we each have to make for ourselves. Like, what is that North Star that you're ultimately wanting to navigate to?
100%. And like you said, we sort of are taught what we should aim for, what we should aim for, and what the path looks like. But there are so many other options available if we just open our eyes a little bit. Um, I do have one other question before we wrap up, and this is a bit of a left turn, but it's something that I am exploring myself at the moment with regard to business and the feminine, and it's around pleasure and how we can bring more pleasure into business. And for me, I've been thinking a lot about um, my client experience, like how I can create experiences for my clients that feel really good to them, whether or not they understand that's what I'm doing. But like I created a Notion dashboard recently for a client, and it felt really fun for me to do, and it made it working together more pleasurable as well because we've got nice colors and we've got nice fonts and it's all laid out really nicely. And there's other more black and white ways to work together. But I think I'm just feeling really drawn to this idea of intentionally pursuing pleasure in business, both for myself and my clients and for the collective. And so I'm just curious, like, if there's anything that you'd like to add to that conversation or anything that comes to mind when it comes to pleasure in business.
I think this is such a worthwhile exploration, because pleasure, to define what I think we're both speaking about, I'm speaking about pleasure not necessarily as something that's overtly sexual, that it can be. I'm speaking about pleasure as a sense of aliveness, ravishment, enjoyment, feeling good, of like, oh my gosh, how delicious could this be? Yeah. And to me, that's absolutely something that I want to infuse into all domains of my life. So when I think about pleasure and the way that it interfaces into my work, I am at a certain phase in business where I don't have a lot of business hours. I have young kids, as I've mentioned. So when I show up to do my work, it's like, let's get this going and like, let's get it done. There's quite a lot of like yang energy that I naturally bring to that. But at the same time, I schedule in particular moments throughout my calendar for the week or the year where I know that the emphasis is not on like, let's go. The emphasis is more on like, let's just sit and enjoy. So, an example, last month I took the Eurostar over to London and had a weekend retreat with one of our team members, Sharon, who lives there. And we pretty much just ate great food the whole time. And that was our business retreat. We did do some work. There was a little bit of like some brainstorming that happened, but we checked in at the start of the business retreat, and the first priority, how do we want to feel? What is it that we want to really guide us for this retreat? And it was, we really wanted to both feel very restored and just tune in and connect. And so that's what was prioritized through sharing several amazing meals over the course of the weekend. And that's a really valid way to get things done, I believe. So for me, my approach is a little bit like, how can I deliberately schedule, pocket that in, knowing that when I spend time feeling good and connecting in those ways, while it might seem like it's detracting from productivity or how much you can get done, at the same time, it's filling you up so that when you step into whatever you're doing, maybe you're doing some copywriting or maybe you're delivering a client session, you're bringing so much more effervescence, and you used the word resonance before, resonance to that action. So that's how I, someone on a pretty tight time frame right now, that's how I weave it in. I distinctly block it out in terms of like, you are for feeling good.
Oh, that's so perfect. And again, you bringing the realism, like it's bringing the, yes, I have to get things done. And also, I have this structure here to support me, and I can weave in the flow within the structure. I love that so much. Love it. Um, so as we sort of begin to wrap up, I'd really love to invite you to, if there's anything that you want to share, like any other comments that you want to make, that you want to invite listeners to do, or, ways to come to your work, anything
Mm.
practical that you want to leave us with.
Thank you. To me, one of the most important components of the feminine economy is the component of the feminine, and being connected to that inside of ourselves and our own body to understand where that natural resource of feeling, flowing, depth, and embracing more of the full spectrum of life, like bringing that alive inside us personally, spills over into how we view the world and how we are in our business. So for me, where all this has started from and what continues to support me in navigating it moving forward is that sensitivity to the qualities of the feminine and how I want to feel in my own body. And the practice that I use, there's a personal practice, a personal feminine devotional practice that I use, which is called primal feminine flow. That kind of helps me cultivate that muscle. You would be familiar with it, Dee. You would have done it with us during your time at the school. So if anyone's interested in cultivating that quality of the feminine more for themselves personally, so it can spill out, one of the places that you might be able to learn more if you're interested is our Primal Feminine Flow. It's an at-home practice, and you can find that over at jennaward.co. There's also a ton of free resources there. One that I'll mention, which has been a game changer for me, is the embodied to-do list. So it's a free resource. It's over at jennaward.co/planner. And when I've got a ton of stuff that needs doing, I use this particular structure of the embodied to-do list to prioritize that feminine depth of feeling while also getting a ton of done. And this particular structure is something that I just like want to give to everyone because it's really revolutionized the pressure that I used to feel around having way too much stuff on my to-do list and just being really dried out around it all. So that's a free resource for somebody who's interested in planning their day in a little bit more embodied ways.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will link those in the show notes as well, make it super easy for everyone to find. Um, yeah, I guess that's really brings us to the end of the conversation. I want to thank you so much for making the time to be here and for sharing your wise insights. And yeah, everything practical that you've mentioned as well. It's been so amazing. I can't wait to personally listen back to the episode when I'm doing the editing and sharing it. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
It's been an honor, Dee. Thank you for having me.
Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Your attention is so precious, and I'm honoured to have had a glimmer of yours. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. You can email me at hello@nadineguy.co. And please feel free to share this episode with the person you thought of as you were listening. And if you're one to leave ratings and reviews, I'd love to invite you to do that for the Messy Magic podcast. I'd be so honoured. Until next time, have a magical day.